Hello. I think I'm not live on Facebook, and that's okay. I think we're just live on YouTube, and this is just going to have to be replayed later. But welcome to the 5 big fears that keep you from hiring. Christine, are we good? Okay. So that means we're live on YouTube, right? Okay. So today I'm just going to talk about some of the common fears that people have about hiring, but also that I've experienced. And then Heizo, I'm just trying to, I have my team on the back end trying to support me in doing my webinars because guys, I don't know how to do these things very well. It's always like I'm doing it for the first time every time. So bear with me, but we're going to get started because I gave myself a 30-minute time limit. It's kind of like a lunch and learn, except in a master class. Okay, so um, welcome. First of all, I'm always thrown off base in the beginning, but that's okay. When I started in owning my own business, that was 20 years ago, I would work all day. I would come home, I'd make my dinner for my daughter and I, and then I would start doing phone calls and emails all night. And it was a miserable life. And I didn't know how to stop that. I didn't think I could hire anybody to do that because I understood how to do it, but I didn't understand how to train people to do it. And it was painful. I was missing a lot in my daughter's life because of how much I had to work. And I couldn't really enjoy that time in my life either in my 20s. I was a workaholic because I had to be, but I didn't have to be in the admin. And I didn't have to be in the work that I did at the time if I'd just known how to hire good employees. So if you're like me and most entrepreneurs that I know, you're probably wearing too many hats in your company, whether you have in a business in the world, like a brick and mortar store, or you have an online company, or you offer a service, or you're in the trades. There's so many different ways to do business, but most of the people who start businesses tend to wear a lot of hats. And so if these are the signs I think of when I think that you would know it was time to hire. So if you are always experiencing admin overload, if you are missing strategic opportunities, um, for instance, sometimes opportunities come up and you just can't do it. Oh my gosh, you guys, I just learned how to change the channel with never mind. If you're the bottleneck in your company all the time, even if you have help, but you can't give them the support that they need or the training that they need, um, and even if you've hired somebody, you might look at the hire as a fail when really it's us that fail the new hire. If work quality is going down, there's a lot of chaos in your business. And if your family resents you or your business, these are the signs that you need to hire or hire better. But there is a cost that we have to think about when we do everything ourselves. So, we all have the same amount of time. My husband's an engineer. He works for a company 40 hours a week. He comes home and then he doesn't think about that work anymore. He goes and does his hobbies, or he goes to the gym, or he spends time with his family. Can you even imagine? Entrepreneurs, we're just built differently. We don't stop thinking about the work because the work is so much a part of ourselves. It's our creative energy that we're putting into the world. And because of that, we're built differently. We cannot value our time the same way that other people do. Um, there's, you know, maybe there's other market segments that you want to do, turn to in your business, or you want to serve, but you can't because you lack the capacity to do that, or you don't go to industry events because you have to run your company and you can't actually go and learn how to do things differently because you don't have the time to do it. There's less time for strategic thinking, because when we're doing our emails all day, we're not taking the time or able to take the time to plan the strategy for next quarter, for instance. Or if we're doing all our bookkeeping, we don't have time to actually look at those numbers and analyze them. Um, and then, of course, our personal life takes a back seat. Like, how many times have we missed things with our family or with friends because work felt so urgent and only we could do the thing that was urgent? Um, and also, it's constantly overwhelming. And I'm not going to lie, I'm still always constantly overwhelmed. That's part of my DNA. And it's a part of a lot of people's DNA. So I don't want to pretend that like getting employees is like the thing that's going to change anything, or getting a virtual assistant, which is what my company does. That's not going to be the thing that makes the changes. These are just things that allow us to have more space. Like if we have employees or we get them, we will be less overwhelmed and we can take time to do things that for ourselves, to take time for ourselves. We won't forget to follow up with people. We'll be able to take time off, which is a basic human right, I feel like. There's a big cost to doing everything ourselves. I was a proud workaholic for most of my life because when I was younger, I had to be, and I was also trained to be. Like when my generation, Gen X, like we are trained to work, retire, and die, right? Not everybody looks at things with that mindset, but and I'm a recovering workaholic now. So let's go over the 5 fears. I've named these fears to make them more relatable. They are the control freak, the unicorn, the penny pincher, the DIY-er, and the pessimist. So we'll start with the control freak. Entrepreneurs are control freaks in general. We don't want to be, we really don't. But our brains just have too much in it, and we don't always know how to get it out to other people. And so, you've built the business, you know it from the inside. You don't want to risk trusting someone else to take on any part of it, because what if they ruin it? And I'm a recovering micromanager. A common thing that I see is, and that I'm guilty of, is especially early on when I was hiring, and I will still say sometimes I still do this, but I wouldn't give enough information, or I'd have somebody come on and be like, okay, this is the task, you can go do it now, not giving them enough. And then I'd freak out when they didn't do it the way I wanted, even though they had no clue how that was. Or I would walk somebody step by step through my way of doing things, but that doesn't, and then they would maybe I train them the way that I understand, or the way that I learn, and not the way that they learned. And then I would freak out when they did it wrong over and over. And then I would wonder if I could ever trust that person to do the thing. Did they even listen to me? And that's how you become an accidental micromanager. It's not something anybody wants to be. But when we don't recognize that we are doing these things, that maybe it's always about us. We are the only things that we can control in this world. And so try to think of it from that perspective. I'm just going over the pain points of being these things, by the way. I will talk about some of the ways that you can work on these things. The next one is my favorite because it's sparkly. It's the unicorn. You have done everything up till now. You've developed all the ways to do the things. Maybe you truly believe no one will care as much as you do, or do the job the way that you do. Um, and that's probably true, and that's okay. We're going to go over that in a little bit. Um, the penny pincher. I'm not paying someone to do something that I can easily do myself. That is a mindset that I think most entrepreneurs have in the beginning, and we start out with that because we don't have money. A lot of us don't have money or resources to be able to pay somebody else who's good at things to do that, and so we learn everything, and then we forget that we're not the person who is best at everything. Um, and the other thing is, when you hire somebody, that burden, that stress that you are going to be financially supporting another human, that can feel very overwhelming. And so we justify not hiring people because we know that we could do it ourselves and we're saving money, or we're earning more money. But just because we can do a task doesn't mean that we should, or that it is saving us money. It just means that we're not valuing our time. We're just looking at our time the same as we would, and valuing it just like an employee. And again, entrepreneurs were built differently. If you want to have the impact, the freedom, all of the things we start our companies for, you can't have these mindsets because it's not sustainable. You can't grow past it unless you change the way you think about it. I'm a DIYer. I don't know about you, but I love doing things myself. It's fun. And I also tell myself it's quicker. As I've gotten older, I know that that's not true for sure. But when you've done something a million times and you already know how to do it, it's easy to say, like, why hire somebody? It's going to take longer to train them than to just do it. And in the short term, that's true. It will take a while to train somebody. Maybe if you, but if you do invest a little time, you know, it can make a big difference. And so I think one of the things that's fun about business is we get to learn a lot of different skill sets. If you're sparkly brained ADHD like me, I love learning all new things all the time. And I love just, it's just fascinating that we can do so many things and learn so many things. But that doesn't mean that I should but I can keep the things that I like doing. If it's fun for me, for instance, to make a video and edit a video, then I'll keep doing that. But you don't have to, but we also do a lot of things that we're not good at or that we don't enjoy that we shouldn't be doing. I talked a lot about this in my first mini class, talking about how to value your time. So if you didn't get to watch that, go on my YouTube channel, wherever that may be, and watch the replay. I thought it was very good. The final one is the pessimist. It's possible that you've tried to hire people in the past or that you've heard really crazy stories from friends. Maybe you've never hired anyone, but you just have heard way too many stories, right? Um, you know, the good news is that it probably wasn't like the employee wasn't the reason for the failure. It was probably our fault. Um, And I'll give you some examples in the future when we start talking about how to change these mindsets. But you can, you won't go through the same thing again. Even if you've hired employees and had the same thing happen 5 times, do you think that's a them problem or might it be a you problem at that point? And if you're an entrepreneur who does believe that you can learn, because that's part of the whole journey, that's the only way that we can be successful as business owners and entrepreneurs. We have to keep learning and growing, and changing our views of things so that we can continue to succeed. I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of businesses fail is because they don't learn and grow as they go. So if it happened 5 times, it doesn't mean it has to happen a sixth time. So you can't give up on hiring just because bad things happen. It might have been that you chose the wrong person. You might have not done the background check. You were an inexperienced manager. You're not a good trainer. Just there are plenty of reasons why it might not have worked, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't try again with the right systems and support. So here are some simple mindset shifts that will change everything. Really, if you are able to do the work, that's the only way change happens. I'm not going to promise you that you're going to change your life just by hearing my words. That would be ridiculous. But there's a lot of things that if we just start, maybe I'm the person who's going to be able to explain it to you in a different way that you can actually hear it this time. Hopefully that's the case. And even if you take away one thing from this webinar, one little thing that I talk about, and you're able to work on that one thing, that's going to be a huge win because it's going to show you that you can make the changes to be successful. I know I tricked you into here by saying I'm talking about hiring, and I am, but it all goes back to your brain and how you think about the world and are you growing? And so, we attach a lot of emotion to our business, and it keeps us from looking at the bigger picture, and it can keep us from the growth that we really desire. So let's talk about the control freak. Their business is their baby. My business was my baby. It isn't anymore, but there is a way that you can go from accidental control freak to collaboration. You will always control the vision of your company, and an employee is going to help get you there faster. It doesn't have to be about surrendering control. And for me, my creating a big impact in the world is something that's very important to me. So my vision, I've continuously evolved it over time to get clearer and clearer on what that is. The more I can sell that to my team, the more I can tell them why these things are important, the more that they're going to be working towards that with me. So let's just talk about, you know, the difference between being controlling and being directing. You know, directing people, you're giving them the information they need, and maybe you're directing them by telling them what the goal is, what the expectations are, what the due dates are for things if it's a project. Maybe you're telling them that what the final outcome of something should be. But you don't have to control all of the parts of, the tasks that you're doing when you hand something over. So I'm going to leave that there for a minute because these all kind of merge together in a way. No one can do it like I do. You know, it's true. No one can do it like you do. No one will ever think about your business like you do. No one will ever care as much as you do. But, sell that vision, and an employee can do that job. They can care a lot. They can even care enough to take on a level of ownership in their role that you wouldn't have thought possible. And they might even do a better job than you. Most of the time, that is the case. We don't have to clone ourselves. We all have different experiences and education. People have worked at other companies. They can bring that knowledge into your company. So, the other question I would ask that I would want you to ask yourself is your identity tied to your business? Are you the business? And I'll tell you a little bit about why this is an important question to me and how I've had to shift my mind from when I first started in business after I take a sip of tea. Okay. So I bought my first company in, I think, oh God, it's so long ago. It was like 2003, maybe. And then I sold it in 2013. And then I immediately had a midlife crisis, because my whole identity was based on my work. And it had to be. I was a single mom. I had to work hard. And so to feel good about myself, I wanted to be the hardest worker. I wanted to be, the smartest at business. There were just a lot of egocentric things that I hadn't really thought about. And it never occurred to me that the minute that I signed the papers, handing over a business to somebody else, that I wouldn't know who I was anymore because it was so tied into the identity of that business. And that was painful, and I had to do a lot of work to not think of it like that. But I really transformed my mind about that, and so even Home Service VA, my current company, it's not my baby. It'll never be my baby. I only have 2 babies, and they're grown children now, but, it's something that I really care deeply about, but I'm never going to make it my full identity again. Um, so now I'm a recovering workaholic forever. So we often get stuck in the processes that we want to hold people, our employees, to the process of how we do something. But really, we shouldn't care about the process as much as the outcome. So it's important to have systems, but you'll know that it's a successful or it's a good system if it's focused on the end results and not just on the step by step. A lot of people are really into the idea of giving SOPs, having all of the things, I was talking to somebody today about having, what is it called when you have a like when you're taking phone call scripts, having scripts. What that does when you hand somebody a binder of SOPs and scripts, it takes away their ability to control or to create, to think. Like we want thinkers, don't we? We don't just want to have people who are just doers. That's my belief, at least. So you can create systems, you can have SOPs, but don't make it about you. If you really want to grow outside of your company by hiring employees, you have to think bigger than that. And one of the best ways with employees that I've found to not accidentally micromanage is by handing something over and not looking over their shoulder. If I've given them the right information, if I've um, if they know they can ask me questions, then they should be able to do it because I want to trust them to do it. And if they didn't do it right, it's usually my fault because I didn't give them the right information. So again, if you didn't watch my first video about how to value your time, you really should do that. But, you have to think about what is your time worth? Most entrepreneurs, they don't put a value on their time. Like what is that joke where we are the only people in the world who will leave a 40-hour a week job for a job that's 80 hours a week for like very little pay. And we do that because we are adventurous and we love creating things and we love making things possible. And you should be able to share that with a lot more people if you have employees than if it was just you. And so you have to think about, the value of your time. It also leads to lost opportunity. There's burnout. So let's just look at my chart again, which I remade, but I did not invent this concept. I don't want to be living in the $15 an hour column when it comes to tasks. This is what I could pay anybody to do. I can easily train anybody to do the things that are in this column. And these are just examples. I want to be living in this column and these two columns over here. I want to be doing the things that are going to have the most impact on our growth, on our finances, that are going to be able to just I just want to be doing more of the long-term thinking for my business. And I want to be able to support people on a higher level. I can't do that if I'm answering phone calls or answering emails. It's just not possible. And so let's move on to the DIYer, quicker to do it myself. And that's true. But investing a little time now is going to save you hundreds of hours later. It might take you, a minute okay, I'm trying to think of what takes me a minute. It might take you 5 minutes to send an email, but you're sending thousands of emails a year. How many minutes is that you're giving away when you could be using that time for other things? And you are faster. You will probably be the fastest for a while, but you'll run out of time. So you only have 40 to 50 hours of work week available unless you're a workaholic, and then you probably have 70 to 80 hours a week. But science actually says we only are effective 4 to 6 hours per day. So tops, that's 30 hours a week. So a lot of times, I don't know about you, but I end up spinning my wheel stubbornly, trying to get something done that my brain has long since shut me down on. And that's not where my energy should have been going in the beginning. You won't be able to make as big an impact if you're not, or make as much money if you don't have employees, and you'll never find that time to work on the bigger things in your business. So just getting started with the routine things in your business, getting rid of those things, it's going to save you so much time in the long run. So the training system I designed is super simple. It's make a list of all the tasks you do, or ask ChatGPT. It can analyze you can just talk to it with your phone, tell it all the things you do all day, and then it will analyze your time for you. And then once you have that list of things that you spend the most time on, and you can really see what you're spending the most time on. And honestly, if you're a business owner, it's usually email, it's phone calls, it's communication stuff, and that's easily trainable. What I do after that is we just make a very quick training video showing me doing the task or explaining how to do the task. And then I have my employee write a bullet point process sheet to make sure that we're on the same page because, like I said, people learn differently. If I just show them a video, how do I know that they understood what I was saying? Maybe I didn't explain it right. If I just give them an SOP, how do I know until they've done it wrong? I want to give them that video where I'm explaining it. They write the SOP essentially, and then I can see, yes, we're on the same page, or, oh no, I missed some context. I have to give them more of it. It doesn't have to be hard. We overthink this stuff. And if you're like a service business owner thinking, this won't work for me, you have technicians. They trust me when I say I have another simple system that will make training easy for you. It doesn't have to be hard. We just tend to overthink it because we're not trained to be trainers. That's not usually how we come into our entrepreneurial journey. And we tend to train people how we learn and not think about all the other ways that people learn. I got off topic a little, but um, and then we have the pessimist. I can't go through that again. Let me tell you about my traumas with employees. I had an employee, my first one, my very first employee came recommended from the church that my parents were in, stole from 2 clients, not just regular stealing, heirloom jewelry stealing. That could have destroyed my company. It could have destroyed my relationships with clients. I could have lost all trust in having employees ever again and never hire again. Um, what about the time I caught him peeing on my client's front lawn? And that's crazy. Nobody would do that, right? Well, turns out he was a meth addict. So um, that's how I found out about that. Or the employee who took my van to score drugs, or the employee who got locked out of a house and tried to climb into a customer's window, but then got stuck on one of the ladder rungs, almost upside down, and they were alone on that job site. I even had an employee that I hired really early on when Dean and I started HSVA, who we wanted to help us to set up the software, who was going to take over the recruiting. And she almost stole our company because when she set up the software, somehow the software company let her do it and like change it to her name. And it took a lot to get that back. I could have stopped then and said, I will never trust anybody again. Instead, these were all lessons and I learned from it. But what about the time I got a back injury when I was 30 and I couldn't go onto job sites? And I had awesome employees who were able to just do that work because I had trained them well. I've had many, many dozens of awesome employees. I might have had 100 plus. I'm not sure at this point. So if I had just stopped after those bad experiences, it I would have missed out on all of the other people that I hired later on. So you have to build on the idea that it's possible to be successful here. You kind of have to be like me, an optimist with a bad memory. I'm going to remember what happened, but I'm not going to associate emotion to that memory. I'm not going to like think about it as an actual trauma that makes me feel stress when I think about it. I kind of disconnect from that feeling and say, wow, that was horrible when that employee stole. Here's how that's never going to happen again, right? So anyway, the point is there are lots of things that maybe it didn't work in the past, but these are all fixable things. You are not there, look at how many people have been able to hire and keep employees and do really well with them. It's not because they're magic. It's because they learned a skill set that you haven't learned yet. That's all. So, how do you develop a growth mindset? The first thing I would say is you really want to, well, actually, let me see. Let me start here. Be honest about your starting point. Like, I'm just simplifying it. I did this right before this. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much of a control freak are you? How much of a unicorn are you? Penny pincher, DIY, the pessimist. When you figure out where the biggest issue is, start with that one thing. Start working on that one thing. Start with small steps, tiny baby steps. If you're a control freak, learn how to delegate. And I think we're going to be talking about that in a future webinar. Actually, I'm going to be talking about my systems of delegation. So come attend that and learn how to delegate easier. Track your time. Like I was talking about before. ChatGPT can track your time for you. And then you can see like where you're spending the most time or the things that cause you anxiety. You can start to look at things in a different way because you can hire people over and over again and be unsuccessful. You have to plan how to do it differently next time. It's not just a thing where you're magically going to do it differently. So this is just a starting point. And then set some goals. I would even think about what is the thing that takes up the most time. When we work with clients at HSVA, Home Service VA, we know that the majority of a business owner's time is spent on email and phone calls. There's other things too, but we can give back a lot of time very quickly if they just are able to delegate those things. So we look for the things that are going to be giving back the most time the quickest, and we map it out. We figure out how to do that, and then really start thinking about task delegation by outcome. So instead of saying like, this is how you do it, step one, this, step two, this, maybe let me think if I can think of an example like boiling an egg. Step one, get the egg out of the fridge. Step two, get a pot out of under the stove, whatever. Instead of that, just say, we boil eggs. The egg should have no white runny part because that's gross. And the middle part should be soft but firm, the yellow. And you put it for, 14 to 16 minutes, check it after this. This is how we've done it, or whatever. It can be that simple. And then the other thing is focus on learning opportunities. You know, every day is a learning opportunity for me. I'm always learning. My mind is open to it, but I've trained my mind to be open to it. And even then, I feel like I'm not open enough because in my mind, there's a fight. There's a constant battle between like the old melody brain and the growth-minded melody brain. So maybe you take 30 minutes a week and just journal about a problem you had or reflect on some of the things that went right or wrong in the week. We don't do that in our life most of the time. We don't. We're just Entrepreneurs tend to be go, 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 and we don't stop and really reflect. If you are looking for, I have some journals that I've used that help me to plan my week, but also are great for reflection, and they're very simple. If you're somebody who would use something like that, message me. I can give you some recommendations. And for hiring, having your role be very clearly defined is super important. You have to know what they're going to be doing and explain it to them in a way that makes sense. And then you have to have realistic expectations. They're not going to be you. Nobody will ever be you because you're magic and special. You're the person who has the sparkly brain who makes things happen. You're the vision person. That's what business owners are. Unless you're a business owner who, started something with the intention of it being just about making money, and I guess I should just say entrepreneurs, like we want to make something, we want to create it, and that's the fun of it. To us, business is almost a game. And then you have to be very good about onboarding somebody really well. We're still figuring that out in our company all the time. How do we do it better? How do we get more successful with it? Because there's never just a set done point. I think there's always improvement that can be happening. You have to have a really great training system in place, but it doesn't have to be like complicated. It can be very simple, but you have to have something created ahead of time that's just going to help you. So just going to help you to be able to train somebody the same way every time. So every time you get an employee, even if it's just outlining what they have to learn, just a checklist, that way you know that everybody's learning all the things they need to learn every time you hire somebody new, and you can build out from there. And then the last thing that I did not add on here, you have to have a good culture in your company or people aren't going to stay. And a good culture just looks like you're a good boss, You have expectations of people and you hold yourself to those expectations as well. And you're helping other people to grow with you, because people aren't just about money anymore. You know, up to a certain, I mean, there are people who are just about money, but if you hear people complaining about employees and not being able to get them, it's because they're, um, anyway, I just realized it's 2:38 and I have gone past my time, but that's okay. I'm going to keep going. So assess your current situation, figure out what tasks you can delegate that are going to give you the most time back, and then plan that first hire. Just getting started on that journey is what I've seen with our clients. The hardest thing for them is to adjust their mind to the idea that they're going to trust us to find them a person who is going to help them. And they have to trust that we've done this enough times that we're going to make sure that they're successful. Um, so what if you could have both impact and freedom? So the way that I think about it is in virtual assistant world, because I'm going to talk about that for a minute. Traditional virtual assistants or employees are very task focused. They're looking at the short term, what's right in front of them. It's very transactional. I'm looking for collaborators in my life. I look for people who understand the vision, they understand the strategy, and they think strategically. They're looking not at the short term, they're looking for the long-term growth and sustainability of the company, and it's based on relationships. That's where success comes for me, at least. And I think for most people that, if you can find the people who are not just going to be the doers, because we have to tell doers what to do, we have to micromanage doers. You need collaborators. That's just the way that I have framed it. Um, so how are we different at Home Service VA? We are very ethical in our hiring practices. We care about people. We believe in living wages and benefits. We really work to match people, not just on personality, but on job, like what the job actually requires. And we work hard to make sure that you guys understand how to communicate well together. And then, building trust through transparency. That's very important to me. I want a lot of honesty in the relationships we help to build. And then there's nobody who can support the way that we do. Um, we do whatever we need to do to support our clients and our, not just our clients, our assistants as well, because there's two people in the relationship. Here's a result that we've had. Jonathan is like a high-level businessman. He is the author of The Sales Boss. If you haven't read it, you should read it. It's a great book. And he wrote this little thing about his email, how he used to spend so much time doing his email, he didn't know how to delegate it. We got him an executive assistant, and using my system, he quickly was able to delegate email over to his assistant, and that's 750 hours a year that he has now saved. Almost 3 months. Isn't that crazy? We have to think like that, or else we don't take the action towards the change needed, because we're thinking of right in front of us how hard it's going to be to delegate something, instead of thinking, wow, I could get 3 months of my life back and use that towards other things, put that time towards other things. And that's real. It's a big mindset shift for sure. So, if you are interested in working with us, we love working with purpose-driven or impact-driven companies, people who care about people. That's what we care about. And we have a setup fee that includes all of our matching, our recruiting. You spend an hour at least with me going over your systems that you may or may not have. We give you systems if you don't have it. We deal with all of the training, and we teach you how to continue that training with your assistant. We process map for you. And then after you have been matched and you start working one-on-one with your assistant, we're doing all of the payroll management and support. There's continuous learning happening. If your assistant needs to learn something, we're going to help them figure out how to do that. And we have a lot of different classes that they can take. We have monthly classes that I usually lead, monthly trainings. This month, we're going to be training on project management because that's what I found out that people are talking about in our company from Mia, who is our assistant and client concierge. And then we I have a lot of templates. I've been doing business a long time, and I'm somebody with people with ADHD, we struggle to follow systems, but I've created everything so that anybody with my brain can be successful because I know how to trick my brain. And it works for a lot of people. And if you don't have my brain, you're going to be successful anyway, but a lot easier. It'll be a lot easier. The goal is that we make it as easy as possible for you to be successful in having a virtual assistant or a virtual collaborator come on board with you. I think that's it. Oh, wait, no, we still have this. There's a couple more webinars this month that I'm giving. I'm trying to do them weekly right now. We have another class, Delegation Made Simple, which is going to be just how to start working with a VA, and then how to build a long-term relationship with an assistant, and to keep that going. And you don't have to work with us to take these classes. You can be here and learn from me. But the goal is for you to understand that we view things in a different way. And we're trying to make an impact, not just on your life, but on the life of the assistants we work with. Okay. Last thing I think is, you can download a guide, The 5 Fears That Keep You from Hiring a Virtual Assistant, if you're interested in this. It follows a lot of what I talked about today, but it's a good little ebook to or guide, I guess. So you can just use the QR code here. I don't know where the link is, but I'm sure somebody will put it in the notes, the comments, right, Christine? And my gosh, I think I did it. Oh, hi, Antonio. I'm so sorry. Didn't see that you were here because I couldn't see anything. Thank you, Christine or Melody. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Did I stop sharing my screen? No. Now I did. I stopped sharing my screen. Wow, and we had a couple people come. I do these webinars knowing that people are super busy, that they have other things that they're learning, especially in January. It's like everything. We have to learn all the things in January so that we can be successful. When in reality, I know that people will come back to this, and it's something that I want to give people um, I want to give people this information because it helped me so much. I did not know a lot about business when I started out, and I had to learn everything the hard way, which is the worst way. They didn't even have the internet invented back then, practically. I mean, they did, but they didn't. Not the way it is now with groups and coaches and all that stuff. That didn't exist for me. And it's been a lot of hard work. And I will say it's always going to be hard work no matter who you are, unless you're very young with a new brain and you haven't had a million. You're not the pessimist yet, which that's what we have to fight as business owners who have done this for a long time. So if you ever have any questions or you're interested in learning more about our company, just reach out, homeserviceva.com. And I hope that this was helpful to you. I'd love to hear if you have any feedback. And that is all. I am finished. The end. Thank you. Au revoir.